I picked him up at a strip mall in Lakewood. He came out of a fast food place, walking slow, head down, hands in his pockets. He looked about 20, a little soft around the middle, the way young men get when they've spent more time at a desk or on a couch than they meant to. Backpack on one shoulder, a button-down shirt that didn't quite fit him, the sleeves rolled up unevenly like he had done it in a hurry. He reminded me of my son. I mean that physically. Same build, same shoulders, same face shape that hasn't fully decided what it's going to be yet. But I also mean it some other way. The way he walked, the way he opened the back door without quite looking at me, the way he said, "Hey, thanks for coming." He got in, he gave me an address in another part of Lakewood, about 10 minutes away. I pulled out. He stared out the window. I have a rule about young men. I don't push them to talk. They'll talk when they're ready, or they won't. And either way, I let them have the back seat as a place where nobody is asking anything of them. The world asks too much of young men. They don't usually get a quiet 20 minutes in someone else's car. So I drove. I had the radio on low. After a few minutes, he spoke. "Can I ask you something?" I said, "Sure."
If someone offered you a job and they told you they couldn't tell you what they were going to pay you until after you finished training, would you take it? I looked at him in the mirror. He wasn't looking at me. He was still looking out the window. I said, "What kind of job?" "Fast food, manager track. They want me to drive 45 minutes to a different county for 2 weeks of training." I asked if they'd cover gas. They said no. I asked if they'd cover the Uber, since I don't have my own car right now. They said no. Then I asked how much I was going to make, and they said, "Don't worry about it. We take care of our people. Don't worry about it." That's what they said.
I said, "What did you say?" I said I needed to think about it. Then they said the position might be filled by Monday if I didn't decide tonight. I said, He said, "I don't trust them. Right? Am I being paranoid?" I said, "You're not being paranoid. You're being a person who pays attention. That's the right thing to do." He shifted in the seat. He kind of laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. It was the sound a person makes when they've been holding something in for a while and a stranger just gave them permission to put it down. He said, "I have an associate's degree. I'm not trying to be ungrateful. I'll take a fast food job. I will. I'm not too good for it. I just don't want to make that commute every day for 2 weeks and then find out they were going to pay me $5 an hour." I said, "That would be illegal at $5. You know what I mean." I said, "I know what you mean." We drove for a minute. He was quiet. Then he said, "I've had 4 interviews in 2 weeks. 2 of them ghosted me. One of them told me I was overqualified. This one wants me to commute to Burlington County and trust them to figure out the money later." I said, "Job hunting is brutal right now." He said, "Yeah." His phone rang. He looked at it. He sighed. He answered. "Hey, Dad." I could hear his father on the other end. I couldn't make out the words, but I could hear the tone. It was the tone every father uses sometimes. "Where are you? When are you coming home? Did you eat? Did the thing go okay?" The kid said, "I'm in an Uber. I'm coming home. Yeah, it went fine. I don't want to talk about it right now. I'll be home in 10 minutes. Dad, I will be home in 10 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah." He hung up. He looked at his phone for a moment, then put it face down on the seat next to him. He said, "Sorry." I said, "Don't apologize." He said, "He treats me like I'm 15. I'm 20. I live at home because I can't afford not to live at home. He acts like I'm just wandering around, like I'm a kid. I have an associate's degree.
I'm trying. I said, I have a son about your age. He looked up at me in the mirror. I said, he's 18. He's leaving for college in the fall. The reason his father calls him like he's 15 is not because his father thinks he's 15. It's because his father remembers when he was 15. And his father's brain hasn't fully updated yet. And his father is going to be a little behind for the rest of his life. That's how it goes. He almost smiled. He said, yeah? I said, my son hates when I do it. I know I do it. I can't help it. Last week he was 20 minutes late getting home from a friend's house, and I texted him 3 times. He's 18 years old. I texted him 3 times. I don't know why. When you can't see them, you can't help imagining things. He said, my mom does it more than my dad, actually. She just makes him do the call. I said, yeah, that tracks. We laughed. Both of us. It was a small laugh. The kind 2 strangers do when they've found one human thing in common. He shifted in the seat. He was looking at me in the mirror now, not out the window. He said, can I tell you something? Not many drivers talk to me. Like, at all. I said, yeah? He said, most of them, I get in, they check the app, they start driving. That's the whole interaction. 40-minute rides where the only voice in the car is the GPS lady telling me to merge. I said, she's not the warmest, the GPS lady. He said, she has range, though. Sometimes she's mad at you. Like when you miss a turn and she has to say recalculating. That's a passive-aggressive recalculating, every time. I said, she's been through something. She's been through something. We were both smiling now. He went on. But really, most rides are kind of soulless. You feel invisible after a while. Like the car was driving itself and you were just cargo. He paused. Do you get a lot of riders who actually want to talk? I said, honestly, not too often. Most people prefer the quiet ride. I think they get in expecting the soulless things, so they put their headphones in before I can even say hi. After a while, it's just how it goes. He said, yeah, that makes sense. I said, but every now and then, somebody gets in who wants to talk. And I figured out after a few years, that's the whole job. That's the part of the job nobody told me about when I signed up, but it turned out to be the whole job. So I leave room for it. I say hi, I ask how they're doing. If they want their headphones, fine, I don't push. But I leave the door open, just in case. He nodded slowly. He said, thanks for leaving it open. I said, anytime. He was quiet for a minute. Then he said something I think about a lot. He said, I think I needed this one to not be soulless. I didn't know that until I got in. I said, yeah, me too, honestly. He went quiet again. After a minute, he said, can I tell you something? I said, sure. He said, I almost said yes to the fast food job. Before I called the Uber, I almost said yes. Because I'm tired of looking. I'm tired of the rejections. I'm tired of my dad calling me to ask if I'm okay. I almost said yes to a job I knew was a scam, just to be able to tell him I had a job. I said, that's a hard place to be in. He said, yeah. I said, can I tell you something? He said, yeah. I think the fact that you didn't say yes, even though you wanted to, even though it would have been easier, even though you knew it would have made the phone call stop, I think that's a sign of something good about you. I think a lot of people would have said yes. I think you're the kind of person who's going to have a hard time for a little longer, and then you're going to have a real thing. Not a fake thing. A real one. Because you wouldn't take the fake one. He didn't answer for a while. He was looking out the window again. We were getting close to his address. He said, very quietly,
thanks. I said, I mean it. He said, I know you do. We pulled up to his house. It was a small 2-story with a chain-link fence around a tidy front yard. There was a light on in what I assumed was the kitchen. A dog barked somewhere inside. He gathered his backpack. He paused at the door. He said, Hey, can I ask one more thing? I said, Sure. He said, What does your son want to do? In college, I mean. What's he studying? I told him. He nodded. He said, That's cool. I hope he likes it. I said, Thanks. I hope you find the right job. The real one. He said, Yeah, me too. He got out. He shut the door very gently, the way some people do when they've been having a heavy conversation and don't want to slam anything. I watched him walk up the path to his house. He walked slowly. Not slow like an old man walks. Slow like a young man walks when he doesn't want to go inside yet. Slow like he was using the last few seconds of being outside to be a person nobody was watching before he had to be a son again. He stopped on the porch. He stood there with his hand on the doorknob for a long second. He took a breath. Then he went inside. I sat in front of his house for a minute. I don't know why. I think I was waiting to see if a light would change, if a voice would rise, if anything would tell me what happened next. Nothing did. The dog stopped barking. The kitchen light stayed on. The street stayed quiet. I drove away. I want to tell you something, and I want you to hear me out, because I'm not sure I've earned the right to say it yet, but I'm going to say it anyway. I have a son who is leaving home in the fall. I have spent the last year worrying about all the ways the world is going to be hard on him. I have read articles about the job market. I have read articles about young men, about loneliness, about the slow erosion of the path I thought I was preparing him for. But I have not, until that ride, fully understood that there are 1,000 young men just like him out there right now, getting in and out of cars, walking slowly up paths to houses, taking phone calls from fathers who don't know how to ask the right questions. Each one of them is somebody's son. Each one of them is doing his best. Each one of them is one wrong job offer away from accepting something that will hurt him, just so he can stop hearing his own father's worry on the other end of the phone. I had one of those young men in my car for 10 minutes. He was a stranger. He looked like my son. He was not my son. But for 10 minutes, I got to be the version of myself I want to be, with the version of him that needed it. That's the whole thing. That's what driving has taught me more than anything else. You don't get to choose who gets in your car. You don't get to choose what they're going through. You don't get to fix it. You don't get to follow up. You don't get to know what happens next. You just get the ride. You get those 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, and what you do inside them matters. Even if nobody else ever sees it, even if nobody ever tells you it matters, it still does. I think about him often. I don't know his name. I never asked. I think his father probably still calls him too much. I hope he didn't take the fast food job. I hope he found something better. I hope he is, right now, somewhere I will never see, doing okay. But here is the thing I have to tell you. The thing I have not been able to stop thinking about. A week after that ride, I was at the grocery store. I was at the deli counter. The young man behind the counter looked up. He smiled at me. He said, "Half pound of the rosemary ham, right?" I said, "Yeah, thanks." He cut it. He wrapped it. He handed it to me. He was about 20, a little soft around the middle, a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He wasn't the same kid.
He looked different. Different face, different voice. But for a second, I caught myself looking for the resemblance anyway. And I realized I have been looking for him in every young man I've passed for a week. The kid from my car. I've been hoping I'd run into him somewhere and find out he was okay. I won't. I know I won't. The world doesn't work that way. But I think every father who has ever dropped off a stranger's son does this. Looks for him, hopes for him, carries him a little, even though he doesn't have to. I'll carry him as long as I can. I hope someone is doing the same for my son, somewhere in a car I'll never see. I hope they are kind. I hope they take the long way. I hope when he gets out, they wait just a second longer than they have to, watching to see that he gets inside okay. That's all you can do for somebody else's child. You just watch him walk to the door. And then you drive home, and you try to remember to be a little softer with your own.